Welcome, everybody. Nice to see you all here. Here we go
Hello.
again. Number 22 of the ISO Talks. That's that's 3.5 months, Tandy.
Wow. Is it?
Unbelievable. Do you remember when we first started doing this? And we thought we'd never get handsome guys on.
No, it's more than
Still
three
waiting.
months. We're close to
People with
Oh,
their
it's,
heads chopped off.
oh, that's right. It's nearly 6 months.
6 months. More than that. Yeah.
Jeez. Jeez.
More than 3 months.
Well, at least we
Six
found some
months of what?
handsome
COVID
guys this
or
week.
It's
I mean, it's
amazing.
it's debatable with Greg because I can't really see him beyond the beard, but I was going through pictures of you
I
today,
never.
Greg, and I found pictures of you with very little beard, and I thought, God, he's a good looking. It's for a man. He's a good looking man.
No, better with a beard, mate.
Yeah, fair enough. That's what
Oh,
the
yeah.
girls say.
Got a very pretty face.
Look, guys, thank you for being here. I've chosen you for your diversity, and you are intelligent, busy working people of our industry. Like me, you create your own industry. Some of us do have the nous and ability to create work, but many others, the worker bees, don't. As you will see, I think you all have something of interest to give the Australian entertainment industry because you're in the UK. And it's a completely different vibe over there. So it's going to be an interesting conversation tonight. It's a new uncharted territory for us all around the world. But we as Australians are used to uncharted territory. Let's not focus on the past. It's over. It's done. Let's focus on ideas. What is going to work for you? What's going to work for us? We have been in a state of flux for a while now, expecting the government to just relax the laws or expecting life to go back to the way it was before COVID is unrealistic. This pandemic and its implications, especially towards the arts, will most certainly continue to wreak havoc on our industry. COVID times will be a marathon, not a sprint, and we have to be prepared for the long haul. Me and Tandy, will continue to focus on helping musicians by talking to other musicians, venue operators, industry professionals, and people connected to the government. Your perspective about your current situation will be of interest for others. What have been your challenges? What has worked? What needs improvement? And I'm going to read out some of the ideas for discussion. We'll get into anywhere. We don't have to go here. We can go anywhere. How to monetize future activities. What can people do to help? What are the main blockers for you? Online shows, do they work? Will they be a new normal or just a supplement? What is good content? What will live music venues look like in the near and distant future? Who will make it through? Who will miss out? And do you think that all related to our industry will learn how to live beyond a week-to-week existence, and how? So we're going to have an open discussion with everything. But first of all, would you please welcome the lovely Miss Tanty, who will introduce you very, very handsome guys. Hello, Tantles. We've lost you, Tanty. You're muted.
Santos.
You're still muted. You're still muted. No, still can't hear you there.
Do you know,
Tant, mute.
I've got all, like you, I've got multiple screens happening. So I had to make sure I clicked on the right tab. on my own.
Every time I go to air, it's a series of things that I have. It's not like one button. It's about 7 things that I have to get together before I go anywhere.
That's
Hi,
right.
Tantles.
Hi, how
Who
are
have we
you?
got with us today?
Oh, look, and thank you for waking up for us. So
It's not that early. Come on, Tant.
Yes. Oh, I was going to say I'm not awake yet.
yeah, it's not very rock and roll if you're already awake, right? So
No, look,
so first
10,
up,
10, a, 10 a.m. over here, Tantals.
No.
We're well and truly up.
No.
Screaming children and all.
I know. So first up, we've got Bryden Stace, singer, composer, producer, and vocal coach. Bryden's history with Pete goes back decades. They've been singing together since the Orient, then the Bridge, continue on with Drive. They toured with the Bat Out of Hell show, collaborated on many sessions and shows. Bryden also has his own company, been doing the Ziggy productions, and he's been the vocal coach for The Voice since The Voice started in Australia here, but now based in the UK. Welcome, Bryden. Great to see you.
Tantals,
Ah,
Pepe, Greg,
that's
lovely to see you
right.
guys. Really nice to see you. It's been too long.
For you. I know
I
it's
miss you
been
too.
too long. Yeah, miss you. So next up, we've got Greg Ager. Now, Greg Ager, pianist, singer, producer, songwriter, teacher. I first saw Greg as a young'un singing in a cover band at Scruffy Murphy's more than a decade ago. And then after that, he went on to front original bands, The Next and Syndicate. Since then, he's been writing songs, collaborating with In Excess singer Kieran Gribben and Murray Sheridan, and touring with the Stomping Ivory show. So Greg now is also living in the UK. Welcome, Greg. Great to see you.
Hi, thanks for having me. How you going?
Great. I'm really well. And so good to see you both here. Back to you, Pete. Yay.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Tandles.
Can I
So,
just
guys, look.
ask Pete, I want to interrupt. I'm going to
Yeah.
be the first person to interrupt because I can't help it. Candy said over a decade ago she saw Greg at Scruffy's. Can I just confirm you were not underage?
I was
'Cause
not.
you're a baby.
I had a fake beard back then. It
Oh,
was drawn on.
I had fake hair back then too. But seriously,
I think-
you must have been underage.
I think the beard covered up the glassing that he was given at Scruffy's once. You know.
Would you believe it or not? I did my first gig at Scruffy's 17 years ago.
Wow.
I
Yeah,
swear
that's
you were
probably
underage.
when I met you, Greg, when you were 17. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Look, it's an interesting thing having you guys in the motherland. It's been a while you've been there. Can I just ask you quickly each, how long have you been there, Greg? Now,
I've been here 3.5 years on and off. I've been back 10 times though.
right, and Bryden,
Okay.
This last stint, just 15 months.
right, okay. So you are Australians and now living in another country for whatever reason it is, and we'll get into that. You've obviously know what's going on over here. We don't really know what's going on there except for what the news tells us. But as far as COVID and as far as the music industry is concerned, Greg, will you give us a bit of a rundown of what's going on?
Well, yeah, I mean, I suppose the UK's been hit pretty hard with COVID if you've been watching the news at all. I think the current death toll is, I think, about 53,000 or something like that. So it's quite high. It's like quite a different species, but the problems are all the same. And so at the moment, after having all the pubs being completely closed, they're now open until 10 o'clock. And live music has been restricted to, you can sing, one person can sing in a venue, providing everyone who's watching is sitting down and not singing. So it's changed gigs.
We're in the same position here. So as ridiculous it is, we're in the same position. Yeah.
I mean, goodness me.
Yeah.
So that's, I mean, that's changed. I mean, grateful to be able to gig, and a lot of pubs, one in particular, have kind of really got behind like supporting musicians and said, well, it might not be that feasible, seeing as we can only have a certain amount of people in the room, but they've kind of recognised that if they don't support live music, then we'll all have to retrain and do something else, and then there'll be no live music. So
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of where we're at, really, in terms of gigs.
I'll get into what you're doing as far as gigs are concerned in a minute. Bryden, what's it like for you? Because you're not really a gigging musician anymore, are you?
Well, not over here anyway. I mean, obviously, look, it's funny, the last 15 months I've still been involved with The Voice.
Just tell us a bit about that, what your part in that is.
So, well, not this season. So this is the first season I'm not involved with The Voice, but last season, so end of last year and all through this year till July, season 9. So basically I was still assisting in casting the show, so I would be up overnight. I'd sort of get up at 9 p.m. and sit up on Skype sessions, listening to people audition through till 8 a.m. in the morning, from October through to December at the end of last year, which just about bloody killed me. And then I kind of consulted whenever they needed some assistance with various bits and pieces. Basically, they were trying to learn to do without what I was doing on the show and trying to fill the gaps that me leaving Australia
Of course.
opened up. But they've got a fantastic team there now. So effectively, I kept a consultant's role, and then I was still mixing the show, or I was getting the vocals and mixing the vocals, sending them back to Doug Brady, who would actually mix the tracks And then I would sort of continue to be the overseer of the audio side of things, where making sure that, watching online screenings and the various bits and pieces that are involved in that, and making sure that the track sounded good, that the music was the feature and not just the supplement. We worked hard over 10 years on The Voice to try and get the music to feature as heavily as possible, because, in amongst a TV show, there are a lot of elements which need to come together from a story point of view, from a network point of view, from a production ITV point of view, and then from us as a music team, from a music point of view.
You had a varied role in that gig, didn't you? Like you
Yeah,
were doing everything.
Yeah, I started as the vocal director when Louise Perryman was the music executive and executive producer on the show, and then as Lou left, my role started to get more and more involved. Ending up as the director of vocal and music production. So basically, I was in charge of the whole music production on the show, and making sure that it sounded and was as good as possible. So it sort of evolved. It was a funny old role.
Can I just ask you now? It's moved to Channel 7, so you're not involved anymore. Is that what's happened?
No. So basically what's happened? Obviously, look, I think last year they used me as a method for transferring my talent to others and transitioning those to others. And this year, as you said, it's gone to 7 now. Sadly, 9 are no longer involved, but it's exciting for ITV and Channel 7 to forge a new partnership. And I believe the format is going to be slightly tightened, because obviously, there you go, COVID is I don't know how many people who are watching this watched the show last year, but you'll have noticed a massive change between the blinds and the battles and the knockout stages through to the showdowns and the lives, where obviously everything that was pre-recorded was pre-COVID. Yeah. And then suddenly we came back for the live shows, and there's no audience. There's a couple of coaches on a screen in a chair, etc. So there was an enormous amount of work that went into trying to, the show was hanging on by a thread, basically. It was, how do we produce... Is that
because of audience attendance or what?
No, look, the first thing was that... which one's that?
Monkey Boy. Monkey.
Yeah, the first thing was the coaches couldn't return to Australia and weren't willing to fly for a start. So you had Kelly Rowland based in LA and Boy George based here in London, neither of which were allowed into the country. So there was that dilemma of, who the hell are we going to get as coaches? Well,
what about a fucking Australian? Wouldn't that be an idea?
Well, there are 2 of them. There's Guy Sebastian and Delta Goodrem, which is good. But look, again, we're making telly, so there's always a trade-off. And the fact that we had 2 Australians in the end was brilliant, I think. We had two Australians to start. We got 2 Australians at the end, and there was a whole sort of bunch of changes and stuff. But it keeps it interesting and keeps it fresh for an audience.
Well, let me ask you: Do you think that now that we're in this situation, do you think that Australia is going to deal with more Australians? Like, are we going to have more Australians touring rather than focusing on the overseas artists coming back into Sydney? And
oh, look, I'd love to say yes. I'd love to think it's look. If you relate it to another industry, the travel industry, people are traveling at home. Everyone's having a staycation. That's that's the new phrase in the travel industry, certainly over here as well. Yeah. Most of the Brits go abroad at a drop of a hat because you want to get out of England during the summer and get some Mediterranean sun. It's the same for Australia. I think everyone is desperate to get out, but the restrictions are such that you can't. So I think if you look at the music industry, I would love to think that there would come a time in the not too distant future, certainly for you guys, where things are opening up enough that you can start putting on concerts and shows, and venues are opening to a decent capacity, which then becomes viable for the venue to open. And you're having and promoting Australian acts, because international acts are no longer able to travel, and no international act I know is ever going to go and sit in a hotel for 14 days and twiddle their thumbs. Literally, they want to get on the ground the day before, do the gig, and get out of there as quick as possible because their schedule's busy. So it might open up the door for...
Let's talk about... I want to talk to you more about what what your plans are going to be as musically in the future. But Greg, let's hear from you. What are you doing now, and what's your future look like over there as far as gigs are concerned?
Yeah, well, I'm actually supposed to. I mean, before March, I had planned to be doing a Stomping Ivories 2 month tour in Australia at the moment, including 2 cruises and a festival and a run of theatre shows. So obviously, we kind of made the call at some stage that that wasn't looking likely. But then, as it is, I mean, it was impossible. So, like Bryden said, who's going to sit in a hotel for 14 days? And, you know, we've all seen the horror stories of, you know, sometimes you get the Sofitel on Darling Harbour, and sometimes you get the Travelodge without a window. And so it's a big ask, you know, who's picking that up. Particularly the problem with coming back to Australia now is, as an Australian, I need to pay $3,000 to quarantine. And also I know people who've been trying to get back. One person in particular who's had his last 4 flights cancelled just because of numbers going in there. So in terms of that, what was going to happen is near impossible. So for us, it's been, well, what can we do here? And so before gigs, I mean, we ran a quiz night, as a couple of you guys know.
That was great, man. I missed that. That was so good.
It was fun. It was, but like the reason we ended up stopping that just as the venue started opening a little bit over here, because we kind of had the thought that no coughs allowed these days, by the way. We had a thought that now that the pubs are open, we need to not distract people on what's a Friday night here. We need to encourage them to go and support the pubs, because that in turn supports the music. So it was kind of, you know, counterintuitive to then have.
Okay, I want to stop you there because I want to talk about that a lot more, because you know, like as far as live streaming is concerned online, I want to show the audience what the Stomping Ivories is all about. So just let me play this little video. We can talk while it's on. They won't hear us, so we can swear as much as we fucking like. All right?
I'll get it out.
Rains down in Africa.
Every show, no matter whether it's in a big theatre, or we try to treat it with the same energy as those halls. To 1,000 people or 20 people, it needs to have that same vibe and energy.
You could be playing a rag from 1912. You could be playing Thunderstruck by AC/DC, which is a big piano band.
Or Bohemian Rhapsody, and trying to get 128 vocals down to 3 parts. We get to do a bit of everything.
So this is a really successful show that you've put together with 2 keyboard players and a drummer, and that was the show. Somebody's got their video playing. If they can just turn it down.
That'd be me, mate. Technology and me. Yeah. I was watching it. I couldn't watch it here, so I thought I'm going to go onto Facebook and watch it.
I mean, that's a really successful show that you do, and that was the advertising for the 2000. Was that the show for this time, or was that the previous run?
That was the previous run that we did. So the footage was taken on, from a variety of gigs. But the kind of runs we would do last time we were in Australia, we were doing Vanguard, Lizottes, but then, up at Caloundra Music Festival, we had those 2 music cruises. We had Bravo and Rock the Boat booked. So it's things like that. And then in between, we were trying to do like runs of, we were up to going up Queensland. We're in Cairns at the beginning of the year and stuff like that.
It's been a really successful thing for you, and it's worthwhile you coming out. But I guess there's no point in doing it right now, is there? Because it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I've always thought the toughest thing about living in the UK is the thought that it's really far away. But having done the flight 10 times there and back for various amounts of time, the flight becomes almost like it's just one really crap day, just sitting on a plane. And so the shortest I actually flew, it wasn't for a gig, but I flew back to Australia for one day because there was something I really wanted to go to. And so I did a gig here on the Friday night. I flew, I was in Sydney on Monday, and then I was, with the time difference, I was back in Somerset for dinner on Tuesday night.
It sounds like a Kieran Gribben gig where we we got to Malaysia in Penang, and we stayed there for 4 nights, and then it rained on the night that we were supposed to play.
That's right.
So we didn't play.
And I won't tell you that I accidentally probably drank some of the water just as we were about to fly back to...
lovely.
We went to Brisbane to do a run of gigs, and that was interesting.
Yeah.
A run of gigs.
Oh, there we go.
So are you doing any gigs at the moment?
Yeah, so I've got this. Before COVID, it's a different beast over here in terms of the way gigs are run, like completely different.
Give us an idea.
So, in Sydney, I was lucky enough to have an agent, Tim at Peak, and he said to me a long time ago, "How many gigs do you need a week?" And I said, "Well, 5." And for the next 5 years that we worked together, I had 5 gigs every week. And it wasn't until I got here that I realized how much I was taking that for granted, because over here there's no such thing. I mean, it's probably different in the cities like in London where Bryden is, but in terms of where I live around here, there's no agencies. It's all dealing with, it's not management. You're dealing with the person that owns the pub, that runs the pub, that pays the bills, and so you're
So you don't have an agent there?
No, it's me. And so you're calling them and you're kind of hustling for a gig, and they're like, "Well, I haven't heard of you," and I'm like, "Well, it's because I've just moved over." And so it's interesting to make, but the reverse of that is, how many times have you done a gig and the management have come up and said, "Oh, we loved you," but it never makes it back to the person that books, that ends up. Whereas over here, you do a gig and it goes well. The guy who's pouring the beer is the guy who's going to book you again, and so having rebookings is almost like 100% success rate over here, which is brilliant. So having done all that, it took me 3.5 years to build up to 5 nights a week. But now, since this comes back, I've got one constant gig every Sunday, and the occasional weekend gig. So, I mean, I'm definitely luckier than some.
I think you will do well anywhere you go, Greg, because I know that you're a really talented singer, a really talented performer, and you know a million songs. And I think any pub that you play in, the owner's going to come up to you and go, "That was amazing." So you're lucky in that regard that you can do all that sort of stuff. For some of the others, what about for some of the backing musicians, like guitar players, drummers? How would they survive over there at the moment?
That's a lot harder. You're right, because I remember actually when I was talking to you about the thought of moving to the UK those years ago, and you said you're a singing pianist, you'll make a living anywhere in the world. And so I remember thinking, "Oh, right, how bad can it be?" And the answer is like pretty difficult at first, but you're right. If you're a non-singing bass player, you can't do a solo gig. And so it is a lot difficult. It's a lot more difficult for people like that. And so that's where everyone's looking at alternatives to supplement what was gig income.
Yeah.
So I suppose that was the next bit you were getting to, right?
Yeah.
What have we been doing to supplement it?
Well, let's come back to you, because let me go to Bryden for a second. Bryden, I mean, as far as performing is concerned with you, is that something you want to go back to at any stage?
Oh, absolutely.
And is it something that you can do in the UK?
Well, it's certainly something that there's the potential for in the UK. It's funny, Greg and I were before the whole COVID thing. We hadn't seen each other for a while. Obviously, when I got over here, I got in touch with Greg and said, "I'm here, mate. You know the live scene, having worked your way through it for the last 3 years. Are there any tips you can give me?" It was a quick back on that. An interesting thing for me is me moving to England was almost like COVID happened before COVID happened, because I came somewhere where no one knew who the hell I was, and there were no doors open, and there was nothing going on for me other than what I'd obviously had in Australia that was perpetuated. So I did find myself at square one, in the same way that we, as an industry, now find ourselves almost at square one, going, how do we continue to make a living?
But you at least had the voice that you could work from, and you're like my friend Dedici, who works from the Philippines. He can work anywhere. It's all
That's
online.
So I have a voice, and so I got in touch with Greg and I said, "Mate, what can we do? Is there anything that I can do with you? I'd love to do some stuff." And Greg said, "Well, there's a group of hotels that I've been interested in getting into, that put on big live performances in large theatres that are associated with the hotels. It's kind of like a ship, but it's not a ship, it's a hotel." Greg, interrupt at any stage if I'm representing these hotels.
No, that's great.
But anyway, and so Greg and I put together a little, I was putting together a video demo of what I do and the songs and the various things. It's not dissimilar to what Greg's doing with Stomping Ivories. And we were just about to start to push this to these various venues when COVID hit. So that put a stop to that live side of things. And I was also in touch with, I don't know, look, here's me going back 20 years. I set up a company over here, was in corporate entertainment. And I was also in touch with a lot of those boys saying, look, I'm here as a singer, as well as a producer and a TV, and a vocal coach and what have you. If there are any gigs around, let me know. I'd love to be involved and have a bit of a warble. I'm talking back in opera world now. And of course, literally as those meetings were happening, then COVID hit, because COVID hit 5 months after we arrived. So it was a slow build to try to do something live, and then a complete decimation of the possibility of doing anything live currently.
I'm seeing all these messages coming up saying, please return to performing, Bryden. I love your voice, Trevor Court. There's a whole bunch of people just love you. Can I just remind the people of what you do? I'm going to play the Bat Out of Hell show that we did together at the State Theatre. I may have to forward a little bit because it's a long intro, but if it goes out of sync, then we'll deal with it. I haven't tested it yet, so bear with me. Here's Bryden Stace.
down in the valley tonight. There's a man in the shadows with a gun in his eye and a blade shining oh so bright. There's evil in the air and there's thunder in the sky, and the killer's on the bloodshot street. Oh, and down in the tunnel where the deadly rise, you know, I swear I saw a young boy down in the gutter. He was starting to foam in the heat. Yeah, and baby, you're the only thing in this whole world that's pure and good and right. And wherever you are and wherever you go, there's always going to be some light. But I gotta get out, I gotta break it on down before I find the crack of dawn. So we gotta make the most of our one night together. When it's over, you know we'll both be so alone. Like a bat out of hell, I'll be gone when the morning comes. When the night is over, like a bat out of hell, I'll be gone, gone, gone. Like a bat out of hell, I'll be gone when the morning comes. When the day is done and the sun goes down and the moonlight shining through. Then like a sinner before the gates of heaven, I'll come crawling on back to you. I'm gonna hit the highway like a battering ram on the silver black phantom bike. Well, the metal is hot and the engine is hungry, and we're all about to see the light. Nothing ever grows in this rotten old hole, and everything is stunted and lost. And nothing really rocks and nothing really rolls, and nothing's ever worth the cost. Yeah, I know that I'm damned if I never get out. Maybe I'm damned if I do. With every other beat I got left in my heart, you know I'd rather be damned with you. Well, if I gotta be damned, you know I wanna be damned, dancing through the night with you. Well, if I gotta be damned, you know I wanna be damned. Gotta be damned, you know I wanna be damned. Gotta be damned, you know I wanna be damned. Dancing through the night, dancing through the night, dancing through the night with you.
Look, I want to keep going because it's so good. That whole thing was amazing.
Stop. No, put them out of the mid. Don't get to the end. No, please put them out of the mid. We need to keep talking.
Just looking at some of the people's remarks here, and it's amazing lead vocals, brilliant, Brian, Stephen Atkins, who knows his music. Loretta, you are the voice. Loretta, Bryden Stace, Loretta Dehan. Hope Duncan, what a voice. I must see Bryden live one day. I will get him back as soon as we can. You know, it's amazing with you guys. You're an absolute, amazing performance, and there's no wonder you've gone overseas to kind of do stuff. But it's going to be a tough time from now on. Greg, what is the future for you in this industry? Is it still just doing pub gigs and stuff like? I mean, I'm 60 next Monday, so
No,
I'm kind of used to the fact that I'm my chance at being anything other than what I am is nil. I love who I am and I love the work that I do. Are you in that position in your life, or is there more that you want to do?
That's really interesting actually, because I've always had like songwriting and producing has always been something that I wanted to really spend a lot more time doing, but because it's hard to, when the jobs are not as frequent as the gigs, and that, as you know, like the energy of doing 5 or 6 gigs a week doesn't leave a lot in the tank for building other stuff like that. So since lockdown, I've written more songs, than I've written in a long time. Like I've been co-writing with people. I'm actually producing an album for a guy in San Francisco at the moment, and so that's been over the last couple of months. Everything's been by file transfer and stuff, and so I've probably written 26 or 27 songs since lockdown, and so for me it's shown me that with more time to fund my own energy source, you know what I mean, of like creativity, then I can go and do stuff like that. And so the more of that stuff I could do, the better. The other thing as well is I've been teaching piano online. So, and that was basically since the beginning of lockdown. So between, it's slowly getting up to where I could maybe replace the majority of the gigs with, producing and teaching and songwriting. Although, as we know, the songwriting money comes a lot later, if at all. If at all. And so that's shown me that everything's adapting and changing in a different way. And I've got a bit of a theory as well. I was talking to a guy who he grew up playing in bands in the 70s and stuff, and I said, it must have been so much easier to be noticed back then because there were so many more opportunities to play live music. And he said, are you kidding me? Everyone played live music then. It's the same problems that you have in each generation and each era. And I think, well, is this the latest hurdle that we have to overcome? A gig's just different now. And it will come back, but will it come back to the same degree? Definitely not in the same numbers. There's so many musicians that, I've talked to a guy who just went full-time music, and then COVID hit. And so people like that, are they going to stick it out, or is it going to take years to come back from? And so there's some sort of change that needs adapting to, I think.
Well, I think that the muso of today is not just a guy that waits for the phone to ring and goes to a gig, and it hasn't been like that for decades as far as I'm concerned, because I've never done that. But except for when I was doing session work galore, I was just working my face off. But there was always more that I wanted to do, and there was more things that I needed to do. So I think that the newer musician is now kind of not waiting for the phone to ring. That's one of the questions that I wanted to, ask you both is, do you think all related to our industry will learn how to live beyond the week-to-week existence? Because a lot of those guys are struggling. And how are they going to do it? Bryden, how are they going to do that?
I don't know. I think it's a bit of it's a conundrum for some who've put all their eggs in one basket. I think that, it's a really... But then some people have one egg that they do exceptionally well, and it makes sense to focus on that, and they've honed their skills to the point where that is their thing. So at a time like this, being diversified is gold, because you have a multitude of strings which you can hopefully pull in order to perpetuate your longevity in the industry that you're a part of. So
I think, if I can just interrupt you, there, I think that, like in the what I like to call the dinosaurs, which I'm part of the scene, but like the Richard Claptons and the Dale Braithwaites and the Jimmy Barnes, they've got their same 12 songs or 15 songs that they sing at every gig. Do you know what I mean? And like you're saying that some people are great at one thing in one basket. And I mean, that's okay, but we're not going to find those people again. We're not going to nurture those people anymore. So somebody that may only have those 15 songs or one album with 4 albums, and trying to get more of that person, I don't know whether that's going to last for much longer. Actually, I don't think it has lasted ever since.
Yeah, look, I don't know either. What I was really meaning is, say for instance, you're a musician and your thing is, as you said, you're a bass player, or a drummer, or it's hard enough. What you were talking about earlier, Pete and Greg, that as a singing pianist, you have 2
That's what I do.
opportunities. Yeah, well, that's it. But as a singing pianist, you have an opportunity to play and sing. So therefore, you're a self-contained musical unit. If you're a bass player or a drummer, you're not a self-contained musical unit. Therefore, well, you are, within reason. But if you were a live gigging instrumentalist, I think they are the people that are going to find it exceptionally more difficult to forge a path than a self-contained musical instrument like, as I said, a piano vocalist.
What advice would you give somebody like that?
Well, there are a multitude of things. If you're proficient enough, you could become a teacher, offer online lessons, offer online courses. Strange. I've been trying to think of things for myself to do. Obviously, now I'm no longer in The Voice. I've suddenly found myself with this world of quiet opportunity. That's probably the best way to describe it. But I've been, learning and studying and watching, tutorials online. I mean, I suddenly went, God, what can I do? So for me, I've gone, well, I'm getting back into composing. I'm getting back into producing and writing songs, which has completely been on the back foot for 10 years. So I'm producing a record for one of the winners of The Voice 2 years ago, a guy called Sam Perry, who was the beatbox guy. We're getting together to produce a record. So that's something. But look, for instrumentalist, teaching, I guess, is one avenue. If you're at a level that you think you have something to offer and that you can actually teach the young. I never thought that I'd be a teacher, and going on The Voice effectively, at the beginning I was a vocal coach and a teacher. I had no interest in being a teacher. But suddenly I was thrust into this role of coaching and effectively teaching people to sing, and I genuinely loved it.
Yeah.
I loved giving information to people who are young and eager and keen and wanting to be there and wanting to learn and wanting to know more. So I can highly recommend.
It would be such a waste of knowledge and talent if you didn't teach, though, because I've never met somebody that knows so much about the ins and outs of a voice, particularly with something you can't actually see. You've been able to put it into words, to me before, what it's doing and what's happening.
And you're talking about the voice, not the TV show.
As in the instrument, the voice. These things. Yeah. And so I'm like, well, that to me, from an outsider point of view, I'm like, well, that was inevitable no matter what, because you have such a anyway, it needs to be shared, that's all.
Yeah, well, thanks, man. I was so surprised. I generally love it, but see, and I'm sure there's a lot of people who are like me. I'd have to say I am inherently lazy, and I find it difficult to instigate a connection myself. I don't know whether it's through shyness or fear or apathy, lethargy. I don't know. So I struggle with taking the first step. If someone's holding my hand, awesome, no problem in the world. But I do struggle with actually putting myself in a position of vulnerability and potentially someone saying no to me, and I'm sure there's people out there that are like this, and I appeal to you as well. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there for fear of rejection or failure, because
well, that's interesting, Bryden, because I understand that, and a lot of people are like that. I mean, for me, you know what I'm like. It's hilarious because I'm exactly the opposite. I go, I have no idea of how to do this, but I think I can figure it out, and I'll go for it, right? And what the amazing thing about that is, it's teaching me more authenticity with who I am, because with my playing, this is how I play. I can't play any better than this. I'd like to be able to play better, but this is who I am. So you either like it or you don't, and that's a hard thing to come to terms with. But making myself be online and create things and do stuff, it makes me just go, fuck it. This is who I am. I can't be any more. Do you know what I mean? I don't know whether that's an age thing or whether it's just a fact that I always try something new. I'll just go, all right, buy a camera. Get a camera working. Okay, now how do you get the camera working so that you can record the video and the audio at the same time? And it's good audio, not from, and then I'll figure out the next thing to the point I'm at this stage, And I think that most of us, I find that a lot of the guys that are the players that don't have the nous to make an industry of their own, the one thing that I say to them is learn how to use Logic or learn how to use a recording program. Just start with something simple, you know, or
You're
learn how to use
absolutely
Sibelius or something. Just learn something, you know.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest step is to...
And that's kind of what I was saying. That's like I've actually started going online to learn stuff. But I'm 50 this year as well, and I think, Christ Almighty, we're all getting old. How the hell did I get
puppy in the garden of life, pal?
In the garden of life.
Let me just show the guys online couple of the things, because I've got one of each of you. What we did in lockdown when it first began, and how we recorded this stuff. The way that we recorded it was... Actually, let me play one first, and then we can talk about it.
On a hot summer night, would you offer your throat to the wolf with the red roses?
Will he offer me his mouth?
Yes.
Will he offer me his teeth?
Yes.
Will he offer me his jaws?
Yes.
Will he offer me his hunger?
Yes.
Again, will he offer me his hunger?
Yes.
And will he starve without me?
Yes.
And does he love me?
Yes.
Yes.
On a hot summer night, would you offer your throat to the wolf with the red roses?
Yes.
I bet you say that to all the boys.
So you get the idea of that one. Let's have a look at Greg doing Unchained Melody, and then we're going to talk about how, you know, like these times we created something.
G'day everybody, I hope we're doing well. Pete, it's time to get romantic, mate.
Oh, my love, my darling, I longed for your touch. A long, lonely time. And time goes by so slowly. Are you still more? God speed your love to
Yes, that's apparently, ladies and gentlemen, only dogs will be able to hear Greg's next album. Gets that high. It's quite amazing. You know,
along.
both of you are such amazing singers, and it's such a joy to watch you perform and hear you perform. I'm seeing all these comments coming up, like we really miss you back here. We really miss you. Is there a time that you think you might come back for good, or do you think you're stuck over there now that you love it, that you're going to stay there? Bryden.
Difficult question.
Okay,
I would
Greg.
No. Oh. No. I'm happy to answer it.
Go on, hit me up.
I would love to come back at some stage. Absolutely, you know. But I have to give myself the opportunity to do something here as well. You know, I think it would be remiss of me to come all this way and be here with my family and sit here for 5-10 years doing nothing, waiting to get back to Australia. So yeah, look, ideally one day would love to, you know, look, if the borders are open, mate, I'm coming back for at least a visit.
Yeah. That's what it is.
Yeah.
What about you, Greg?
Yeah.
Do you think you'll ever come back here to live?
Yeah, I think because I mean, you know Georgie really well, and she's always said the curse of going traveling when she did was now she has 2 homes, and the longer I spend over here, the more I'm starting to realize that. If someone said, you know, I miss Australia, and if someone said, right, tomorrow you have to go back to Australia, you can't come back here ever again, then like that thought is like starting to make me feel pretty shit too. And so I think the idea would be that when the world's actually turning again and you can get on a plane, or should I say book a ticket and know that you're allowed to get on the plane, is that to have a life in between the two places would be ideal, because like I said, it's just one really crap day on a plane and you're there. So I liked the idea that, say, with family back home, you're only ever really 24 hours away from being home. It's no real difference from living in Perth to Sydney, or living in Melbourne by the time you actually get around to getting back. So that makes me feel connected to it. In fact, I've been back 10 times. But you know, who's to say? I think speaking for both Georgie and I mean, we'd live in both places if we could at once. Yeah.
I tell you what, also, the thing that makes it harder at the moment is being told that you can't come back. It's not so much that you don't want to or the opportunity. It's just the opportunity to come back just isn't there. And I think that's the thing that makes it harder than ever. Normally, you know, we come back 2 or 3 times a year, or certainly our family would be back once, perhaps twice a year, to see friends and family in Australia. But the addition of, sorry, you actually can't come back, that's what makes it a bit of a killer.
What's the vibe over there, Bridie? I mean, you know, over here we're in Sydney, and it's not too bad. I mean, people wear masks, and we've got a lot of restrictions in which we adhere to. Well, most people do, except for the footy. You know, but most of us are kind of doing the right thing and washing our hands and sanitising and wearing masks and doing all that. Melbourne's got it really tough. It's been the toughest for them. I feel for them. But, you know, some people in Melbourne are getting through it with no problems too, you know. Like, I feel like I was cut out for isolation. I really do, because it made me do stuff, like do all those. Like we did 35 or 36 of those ISO duos, and it was a great time for me. I mean, it was day after day I was working. But what's the vibe over there? Is it safe to go outside? Are people okay?
Look, it's an interesting time here at the moment because I'm guessing you guys get some of what's going on in the world and the world news over there, whether you watch ABC or 9, 7 or 10, but you get, or SBS even, but you get a sense of what's going on. We're going back into what you guys kind of had over winter, which is a second wave. Obviously, there was that initial spike in March where everything went pear-shaped. And then we had a reasonable summer because we had 18 weeks of lockdown at the start. And we had a reasonable summer and people came out and got amongst it. We were able to go to Europe and travel with some restriction, but we were able to travel. Now we're moving into the winter months. Our cases here in the UK are ramping up dramatically. We're getting 20,000 cases a day.
Far out.
20,000 a day new infections. Between 100 and 200 dying a day. And we've got a 3-tier restriction system going on in the UK now, whereby level 1, which the whole country is under, is a rule of 6. No more than 6 people can meet indoors or outdoors. Then there's a level 2 restriction, which portions of the UK are under, London being that, and a lot of the middle of England and the north of England, Wales is a different story altogether, Northern Ireland and Scotland. But there are level 2 restrictions, which is now what we've been imposed upon here in London, which is we can no longer meet anyone from outside our household indoors. You cannot mix. You can only meet with people outside, and it's limited to 6 people. And that's it. You're requested to work from home where possible. You can't meet at a restaurant as a group. You have to be just your family at a restaurant, socially distanced. And
what
then
about
there's
your
a level
son?
3 restriction. Yeah, then there's
Is your son going to school?
Schools are open. Schools are open. But it's half-term break here, so the schools are on half-term. So there are 3 terms in Australia. UK.
Let's hear level 3.
So level 3 is where you can't. It's basically full lockdown again, except for schools remain open and certain businesses remain open. But it's effectively a full lockdown. But the dilemma is now, and of course we're talking from the music industry side of things. Things never really opened up in the first place over here for musicians. They kind of did, as Greg intimated, where you could get a solo performer performing in a corner, socially distanced to a bunch of people, sitting down, remaining mute, because they're not allowed to sing to you. And as soon as they sing to you, then that's deemed a violation of the rules. So singing is a problem. That's a dilemma. Singing is a problem. Singing is seen as a transmitter. So theatres are closed. Pubs remain open only if they can serve a substantial meal and only till 10 p.m. and only with one family. You can't mix. It's a real conundrum. So the music industry that was decimated at the top and then had a microscopic glimmer of hope, talking hospitality music, because they sort of all end up intermingling because a lot of music happens in hospitality venues, is now decimated again because of this rule. So therefore, that's it. Pubs are closing earlier. They're not hiring. They're putting more staff off. People aren't going to restaurants. People aren't going to pubs to sit because they're concerned about intermixing with others that may have COVID, blah, blah, blah. So it's a double whammy for musicians and the music industry. Talking theatres haven't even opened yet since March. So and they're not to open until 2021. So there's a year of theatres closed in the UK, which is, $1 billion industry, especially to London and the West End. It's a real dilemma for musicians who are generally contract self-employed workers. It's a terribly bad situation, and there are only so many funds that can go to so many people with their hands out. And as Greg said, it will be a really interesting thing to see how many musicians are no longer musicians at the end of this, that they've had to look to other means of supporting themselves or their families.
Can I jump in there?
Go, bud.
When you just said like funds as because like as Bryden's saying, like there's three different tiers. The area that we live in is still on the medium tier, which is like the bottom one, which means you can have multiple people, multiple households, but no more than six. But because of the way things have been, I haven't shaken anybody's hand. I haven't hugged anybody since March that wasn't living in this household, and so it's the impact that it's had, even though the economy impact has been similar, and one death is too many. The actual impact that this country has faced in terms of the severity of it, I think, has almost helped people take it pretty seriously. And I've seen pictures of people, arms around each other. Whereas I feel that maybe over here people wouldn't dare. I don't know if I'm maybe overgeneralizing, but it's just the circle we found ourselves in, where you kind of go, look, it's what we all have to do, and everyone's, the clap for carers thing started here because it was being utilized so much. Everyone thought the world was going to end,
Yeah.
But or just one thing I wanted to say about what Bryden said about having financial help. I've actually found over here some sort of, because if you're self-employed and you file tax returns, then you are eligible for some sort of support. But that's across any industry, as long as you've had a tax return for the last maybe 2 or 3 years. And so musicians included, I'm like, I kind of grew up with the mentality of, if there's no gigs as a musician, then you go and get a real job. And so that's one real positive thing, is it's actually been such a nice reinforcement that being a musician is a valuable asset to society. That
Are you getting help over there? Are you getting financial help?
Yes, but I mean, they did it in like 2 payments. So they did it as it's like your job keeper is what, every fortnight or something like that over there.
Monthly, whatever it is, yeah.
Yeah, you put in based on your tax returns and what type of job they do, they contact you and say you're eligible for X amount and blah blah blah. But I mean, that's over now. But also we're kind of able to subsidize work. But like Bryden's saying, there is a big gap because although, it's, say in Australia, once JobKeeper goes down to whatever the next tier percentage is, what happens to the people that still can't work? They need to cover that gap in something, and that needs to be by doing something else. And I suppose that was the thing that we were talking about, wasn't it?
I tell you what, Tandy, we're really lucky here, aren't we?
We so are. We are. When you talk about, one death, we're single figures here.
Yeah.
And also with our infection rate is, our community infection rate is extremely low. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
the thing about Australia is it's got the benefit of being an island. Look, England and the UK is an island, but we're an island that's 20 kilometres away from the mainland, so to speak. And it's one of the 3 biggest cities in the world is London. It's an incredibly busy hub internationally. So you've got people coming in from all over the place. So it was inevitable that London was going to get hit, UK was going to get hit badly. Australia has the benefit of distance and, and a fear of, I don't know whether it's a greater fear of germophobia or whatever the case may be, but it's much more easily managed over greater distances on a lesser scale of people, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. I mean, 25 million.
You're so fortunate over there. But as I said, the thing for me is not only, I just feel desperate for musicians and industry people. I think of my friends in the corporate industry. No one is doing corporate gigs anymore. I think of my friends, as I said, who play in the bands for the corporate industry. So they're being affected. Pete, just to answer a couple of your questions, yes, people are being vigilant on the whole. People are wearing masks on the whole, all that sort of stuff. But there's definitely less sentiment towards wanting to obey the rules this second time round than there was the first time. The first time that stuff hit in March, everyone thought they were going to die, genuinely, because we knew nothing about it, and all we saw were these horror stories of 1,000 people dying a day. We had over 1,000 dying a day at one stage here.
Crazy. See, we never got to anywhere near like that.
Yeah, no. See, we're in this was in March, and then levels dropped off quickly once they did the lockdown, and it was a proper lockdown. Like, everyone was hyper vigilant. And then, as I said, summer came, things opened up, restrictions were eased, people got a little lax with their interpretation of the rules, and just invariably through sheer numbers of people shifting in and out amongst one another through Europe, as it happens, numbers are rising now. So I think this second time around, having spent all the money that the government has spent initially, not a great deal on the arts over here, sadly. I think it was £1.7 billion. So we're talking big numbers in the scheme of Australian money. You know, that's $3 billion to the arts. You imagine getting
we
that
got
in
250 million
Correct.
here, mate.
So,
I never saw any
remember,
of it.
we've got 67 million people just in England alone over here, and then there's Wales, Scotland, and Northern Ireland. So you're talking about 80 million population. So it's 4 times the size of Australia, effectively.
Yeah.
So there's a 1.5 billion emergency fund, which was initially raised for the arts here, which is for the arts. That's for theatres. That's for anything to do with the arts. That's not one specific sector within the arts. So it spreads quite thin once the money, as Greg said, whittles down to people like Greg, for instance, who had returned his tax over the past few years, so had a history. I couldn't claim for it over here because I have no history of tax returns here. I only just arrived 5 months earlier before this all happened. And I'm still technically an Australian tax resident, even though I'm living here. This second time round, I think every government, and I don't know how it's going to happen in Australia, I hope that coming into summer and people being conscientious, things will relax and people will remain vigilant, but rules will start to ease and people will get out and amongst themselves and have a great time. Whereas here, definitely we're on the upward curve of an exponential curve again, but the government can't dish out the type of money it did in the first round because it's only just dished out 200 billion to all sectors of the economy to try and save it. So, other than quantitative easing, which is probably going to happen anyway, where are they going to get the money from? So the dilemma is either you create a generation of people, and this is what we're finding. So there's a case in Manchester now, an area called Manchester in the centre of England, right in the Midlands, where the government from Westminster in London are telling Manchester they have to go to the top level of restrictions. But the mayor of Manchester is saying, I'm not going to do that unless you can guarantee the people of my area subsidies because they've already struggled to survive, and this second imposition of closing your business is going to decimate them. And we're not just going to lose people to COVID now, but we're going to lose people to COVID for years to come because of the economic impact it's having. So it's a real conundrum for governments. Certainly over here, as I said, I'm so relieved to see things are getting better in Australia, but it's a dilemma. That I wouldn't like to
my suggestion to both of you is more selfish than anything else. That can you please come back? You'll be fine here.
They won't let us in the country.
Come back. I need you. I want you. The interesting thing is. The interesting thing is, and I've always said this, I've managed to put my home loan on hold again, which has been great. It's been amazing because I don't have to come up with that couple of grand every month. You know what I mean? It's been great. And so I can start pumping it into things like new screens and some lighting and some cameras and, help me out with the future of what my industry is. Whereas I said to the girl the other day when she rang me up and said, what's the problem? Do you think you'll be making money in the next couple of months? And I said, possibly. I've got November is good because of the what we've got happening over here is 1,000 gigs and 1,000 venues, the Great Southern Nights initiative, which is kind of helping musicians, not a lot, I know who it's helping, but it's not a lot of musicians. You know what I mean? I mean, the record labels are doing fine out of it, but at least it's something. So yeah, we'll be okay and we'll be fine. But as I said to the girl on the phone, I said it's fine for the government to put our lives on hold. But why not put the banks on hold as well? Because when we get back to this, all my interest and all my extras are going to be double. So you're going to expect me to pay all that extra stuff that I haven't been able to make. So there's a whole mismatch. And it's always going to be the case. And it's going to be a really bloody interesting time. Greg, can you just tell me quickly what's going on in your area? Now, you're in Bristol, is that right?
Yeah, I'm near Bristol, so like closer to Bath.
Are you in a country area or in a city area?
I
didn't
anywhere
think
in the UK, you're only a few minutes away from somewhere really built up.
That's right.
So
Semi-rural.
so it's like we live on the outskirts of a town, which is it's within an hour of about 3 different cities.
Right.
So it's no matter where you go.
What's the vibe there like? What's the like your town? What's it like in there at the moment?
In terms of like day to day, if you leave the house, I mean everything's pretty chill. I mean people are giving each other a bit more space. If you go to the supermarket, if you go into any building, you put your mask on. There's hand sanitizer at the door. If you go into any venue, even to get a takeaway coffee, you scan a thing with your phone. And actually, let me say like that. We were lucky to get away on a staycation to Cornwall earlier, and so we went to a bunch of different pubs and saw the way people were doing things. And everyone's doing their best in terms of, some more successfully than others in terms of how to adapt to their venue, to the new demands and all that kind of stuff. But on your phone, I mean, we have this track and trace thing where once you've checked into a venue, if somebody else gets sick who was at that venue when you were at that venue, you get a notification on your phone. And all the places we've been to and all the gigs I've come, I haven't had any notifications on my phone.
Wow.
So even tell you why. Can I tell you why? Because people forget to log in the first place, and sadly, only 60% of those that actually contract it, only 60% of the people that were within earshot are contacted now. So it's
still a new system, and I suppose that's the thing as well is. I don't envy either the British or Australian government at the moment because it's unprecedented times. I mean, like politics aside, I happen to think that both of them are doing a pretty good job because it's a matter of putting out fires more than it is running a country, isn't it? It's like how do we fix everything for everyone? Because at the end of the day, it's not the government's fault that this virus exists. I think that's a really strong point to make is that people are doing whatever they can based on the restrictions, but we seem to forget one important thing, and that's our fundamental job as humans is to try and stay alive ourselves. Yeah. So like, if 1,000 people are dying a day, would you want to go and give someone a hug, or not wear your mask, or not hand sanitize, or lick someone's eyeballs or something? Do you know what I mean? Like you kind of like you think, well, I wouldn't go swim in the beach in Cairns because of all the horrible things in the water. Yeah. So similar. Yeah. Anyway.
Hey Pepe.
Yes.
Pep, I've got a question for you. As an innovator in our industry, which I'd like to suggest that you are, because you're a bit of a beacon.
He's on Twitch. Come on now.
Yeah, well, do you long for? Is this forum that you've created, this online forum of music and discussion and what have you, something that you would love to see the back end of? Or do you think this has become something that will always be a part of what you do now? What I'm saying is, are you missing the human interaction at a live gig, or are you suddenly going, actually, no, this is my new forum and I'm actually loving it?
He's about to release his new game show, actually.
The game show.
Yeah, Pete Northcote, game show
Yeah,
host.
it's
Yeah.
called Are You Listening?
Yeah.
It's no, you know what? It's a great question because I've invested a lot of time and energy into this. I mean, as I said, I started off thinking that I'm cut out really well for isolation, and I know that a lot of people are stuck inside. And I thought, my whole thing about music is inspiring and being inspired. Now, when I go and do a gig, when I do gigs, I hope that I am inspiring somebody, and then I'm giving them some joy of experiencing music, which is the medium in which I work, and I love it. There's so much passion. I know that so many people that come along and see our shows love it as much as I do. Now, again, putting on these sorts of things was the closest thing for me to do, apart from doing live gigs. Now, don't get me wrong. There's a problem in doing live gigs for me as well. Some of them are terrible. I mean, I don't see them as terrible. I see them as an opportunity to perform and play and make people happy. But they're not musically great. And that hasn't changed much. Even doing stuff online, like you still kind of, sometimes you're just going through the motions. But I think that with this platform, I'm giving a lot of people a little bit more connection with each other. My hardest thing with all of this is speaking to everybody online. And that's why you'll see me come up with new ideas all the time. Like Tandy, you've seen me tonight with a chat box up there so I can read what's going on. I can see Kelly Rose going, a shining beacon, Pete. And Trevor Court goes, no, keep it going. And so Jim Ham, so everybody's kind of connected to what I'm doing, and I want to connect more with them because we're in a community society now, where it's a community, whether it be in your suburb or whether it being in your building block or whether it being online on Twitch or Facebook or whatever. So the more of that I can do, the more that I feel like I'm doing stuff. You know what? Money and survival is one thing in this life, but I don't think it's where you need to focus your life. I think that if you focus on giving and understanding that giving is exactly the same, I've got to sound like a hippie. If you focus on giving, it's exactly the same as receiving. That, when you give somebody a present, you feel great that you've given them this present. You're so excited for them to open it up. Absolutely. And they get this present and they go, wow, this is great. So I think that once you realize that giving and receiving is the same thing, people start to have more joy in their lives. And that's what my thing is about, is giving people more joy and more inspiration and having a little bit better life, even if it means for an hour or an hour and a half online, Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then me putting, you should see me, I've spent the afternoon, I spent all day yesterday I don't want to get into it, but I do a lot of stuff just to get into this, just to do more of this. Now, why am I doing it? It's because I love people. You'll see me at a gig. I'll go and speak to everybody. I love to speak to people. I think
it's the connection.
It's connection. It's all about connection. I'm putting on the birthday show. I'm so disappointed you guys aren't here because, I can't do a birthday show, which I used to do, and I've done it for decades at the basement. But I'm putting one on here on Monday night. Bryden, I do have something that I'm going to play of yours because we did do a couple of songs, and that'll close the show. And I'm working on something with Greg at the moment too, and that's in my mind. But it's a lot of work. I'm trying to. So that's not because I want a great birthday party. It's because I want people to go, fuck, look at the life I live, 60 years, and look at all these amazing singers that I work with, and look at Tandy that helps me out, and look at this. Isn't this great? And you guys online, so it's all about connection. That's what it is.
Can I kind of summarize what you were saying in the sense that I think that you have this extroverted personality where you need to connect with people and you need to do things. And one avenue was taken away, which is the gigs. And so you found another avenue to keep connecting with people.
That's true, Greg. And by building this community online, we also we've had a couple of gigs with Brass Monkey, and hasn't it been great to meet people in person as well? Those that we've
some new people. It's been amazing.
And
Kerry Kell and all. There's Kerry. Hello, please elaborate, Pete. Love to know what you get up to. So you know what I mean. Like all these people that have come and just met us on from all these new platforms. It's been amazing, and I think that this is something that if I can do anything, and it's quite amazing because I get messages all day from people going, "I really love what you're doing. What should I do?" And I go, buy a camera. I had somebody over yesterday. Okay, well, I've decided to buy this. No, don't do that, because I did that. Buy this cheap camera. Start with this. Get OBS. You know what I mean? Like I'm helping people out because I think it's the more that we have of this, the more of a community we have. And who knows what's going to happen with all this? You know, London Europe looks really bad. Everywhere looks really bad. Sydney looks okay. But we don't know what's going to happen. So let's get into some sort of community love while we can. You know what I mean? I don't know what's going to happen in 6 months or 12 months' time. I don't know. But I'm going to keep doing this. And if you look around my room and you see the money that I've spent and made this space a platform for me to be able to do the things that I love to do, which is communicate with people and come up with ideas. You'll think, wow, people walk into this room and they go, wow, it's really small. And they see us online on Thursday nights and see the size of it looks quite big, but they come in here and they go, wow, it's so small. It's like, I'll make things happen. And I think that's, if I can inspire other people to make things happen. And as I say, I get people every day contacting me saying, can you help me out with OBS, or can you help me out? What should I do? What camera should I love doing that. You know, I've got a guy that's contacting me all the time, showing me what he's done with some of the guitar lessons that I've showed him, or free lessons that I put online, and he's really improving. And I think that's what it's about. It's not about me charging for lessons, although I do. But what's really amazing, could I just get into what's really amazing is that our mindset has got to change now, that musicians can't go and make money at a gig. And so people have to understand the tip jar system and understand that. And people are coming around to it. Not everybody, don't get me wrong. And that's okay. I'm not asking them to change. It's really interesting. We will have 300 people watching on a Thursday night, and only a few will donate, and that's okay. But you know what? They do it every week. And and it's beautiful. And I'll tell you what else is happening for me is that now whenever I see something online, I make it a point to donate money, because I think these guys don't have any more. They don't have a wage. They don't, their week-to-week basis wages have gone. So I've got to kind of help them out. And, if people are helping me, I'll help them out. So it's a mindset we've got to change. But, yeah, it's an interesting time.
I can back that, actually, because when we did the quiz, I mean, Pete actually did donate, I would say, just about every week. So
you wanted to give me the money back.
What's that?
You wanted to give me the money back.
I know. I felt so bad. I'm like, I can't take money from another person in the music industry who's also in the same position, but he wouldn't be having it.
No, I think it's really good, and I think that if we all get into that mindset of now that this industry, the music and the arts industry, is all about paying for entertainment. People think that you've got to buy CDs. Forget it. It's over. It's done. Don't make CDs. It's been over for a decade. So don't worry about that shit. Find another way to support your artist. And the whole thing is that making a CD once and then waiting for stuff to happen is over, right? I think that now we've got to go, right, we've got to take a new, understanding of what's going on here. We've got to keep creating stuff, and hopefully people will come to the party and go, let's give him some money so that he keeps doing more.
I think we need to take the stigma away from it, that it's like a begging thing, because I don't think it is a begging thing. It's not.
No.
It's not sitting there going, please help me because I don't want to go out and work for myself. It's that it's providing something that's valuable And obviously, it's if people don't have to donate because we don't know everybody's situation and all that kind of stuff, but it is nice when people are able to do it, because if we can change it from I feel sorry for the little musician and help them, to I value what they're doing, and I don't want this person to have to go and retrain in another industry and then deprive us of the music they're giving. I think that's what the shift is starting to happen, but I think that's what needs to change in public perception, because
well, can I say to you that I think that everybody that donates to my Thursday night shows, I think their mindset is that they're the people that come along to my gigs and love what I do. It's not about the money. It's not about how many drinks they buy. They just love what I do. And then they just go, oh, that was the best thing ever. No, it's not. Not everybody's going to be like that, But those people that donate regularly are the people that come to my gigs regularly.
Correct.
And they love the experience, and they love. I mean, it's a community again. Like having Tanti out there answering people's questions and talking to people is a community too. Like that's part of the thing. It's some of the. I wish I could do it myself, because I'm starting to do more of it, like connect with people, but it's hard to do when you're trying to run OBS, Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, Caster, which streams to all the 3 platforms, then the sound, and then the videos and the cameras, and then the selections, and then that's what I do. Nobody understands, but it's a lot of work. But I need somebody like Tanti to help me out. Listen, let's get away from me.
Yes.
What do you think about me? No, that's Bryden, go, hit me up.
I'm just noticing there's a couple of little comments down the side here about various bits and pieces, and Jim Hanna asked a question ages ago, which none of us have touched upon, which says, question to you guys, is it over for the kind of artists who write and play their own songs? I would like to say absolutely not. What a sad
Can
day.
you just elaborate on that while I go and relieve myself, because I have a bladder of a gnat?
Seriously.
Tanti, take over.
That's 3 beers. That's 3 beers. No, Jim, I think the day a singer-songwriter or artist or creative person says that it's over is a very sad day for us as a society. I think there's never... If you think about it truthfully, if you are... and for instance, like Greg and I are in a situation whereby we're under lockdown, there's nothing better to do for your well-being, for your health, for your intellect, than to be creative and write songs. And as Pete has provided, a platform for which to be able to have those songs be heard. So, as Pete said, keep writing songs, play those songs, buy yourself a camera, get yourself a microphone, do them online, post them every week, song a week, call it something, make something of it. I think there's always an opportunity for that. And as Greg said, he's written 27 songs in the past 6 months. Because suddenly, when you find yourself with thumb twiddling time, it's unless you are stressed financially to the point where that becomes the focus. If you have an opportunity to give yourself a bit of freedom from that stress, then being creative is a great way to survive it.
I agree. And also, in terms of, so how...
We will get through this, by the way. So I was going to say, Greg, we will get through this. There will be venues open for people to play their songs. It will never stop. It's just we have to learn to live with it. It may take 2 or 3 years to learn to live with this and to learn to adjust to the new way of normal. But we'll get through it. And we want to hear your song, Jim.
It's worth noting that, it was hard to find original gigs, growing up and going through the industry and stuff, and begging your mates to all come pay $8 to come watch you play and stuff like that. Whereas now we have, with streaming stuff, there's endless opportunities. The Rock the Lockdown page. There's all these avenues for playing original music. Like some of the times before the pubs are open and stuff, and Georgie and I might find ourselves populating the back step with a beer or something like that. We're looking through Facebook, trying to find a live stream. And when you're playing a gig in a pub, your job more or less is to entertain people that maybe didn't necessarily come to see you. Whereas with a live stream situation, you can do whatever you want. You can sing your songs, and if people are like, "Oh, I'm not in that vibe," maybe they can go and find something else. But the people that stick with it, I think there's more of an avenue for putting your original music out there and performing it, because you can do it from your bedroom. No one's going to judge you thinking, "Oh, he's just doing it in his bedroom. He mustn't be able to get a gig." Like it's level playing field now. Everyone's doing it. So anyway, that's my answer.
It's great. I just heard you guys say, we will get through this. And so it will. Some things will come back, but I'm thinking more like we will get through this. But in the meantime, do something. Come on.
Yes.
Do something.
Whatever you
get your room together. Get some live streaming. Like when this first started, Greg was doing a trivia and music night every Friday night. That's one of the things is making it regular. Like we've made this every Tuesday night, and we've got our Thursday night every Thursday night. I think if you get into that, people start to hook in, and I think that we're beyond the TV show mindset now. And if you have a look at what's going on Twitch. It's amazing. It is amazing. I've seen some of the most amazing, talented kids on there, and some of them aren't even kids. Like they've just picked up the platform and realised that it's a working platform, and they're making money out of it.
What the hell is Twitch, Pat?
Sorry?
What is Twitch? Tell the people like me what Twitch is.
Okay, so Twitch is a live streaming platform.
Yeah.
Think of YouTube. And think of it as only live streaming. Most of it is gamers streaming their game show, right? How they play and how they get through problems. But there is also other platforms of cooking, and they're not as big. Just chatting, which is what I'm doing at the moment, is just chatting. That's my platform on there. On Thursday nights, it's music. So there's a whole bunch of things going on there. It's outstanding. Some of it's incredible. Like as far as technology is concerned, here I am tonight going, wow, I'm blown out that I've managed to get the chat box up there that's transparent. Now it's taken me 3 goes to get to that. And these guys on Twitch have got that times a billion going on, right? Mm. So it's inspiring to know that it can be done. And there's some great music and some great people on there. You'll see some guys on there just producing music, and they'll talk and they'll have a singer in. They'll just kind of produce stuff live, and it's a window into. Look, it's reality TV.
Yeah,
on steroids.
Yeah, I mean it's absolute reality TV by the sound of it.
Yeah. Let me ask you guys before. Yeah, it is. It's beautiful because some of them have really got their show together. There's a guy called Mitch who's a drummer in Sydney, and he streams. Some of them stream for 8 hours a day.
Wow!
Right, and that's their income. Now they make good money out of it. It's with subscriptions, and Facebook are starting to bring that in now, where you could subscribe to people on Facebook, and you can. They've got stars working, which kind of helps the artist, but it's puny at the moment. But subscriptions is something that can help the artist with content. The more content you come up with, the more subscribers you have. Let me give you an idea of a guy on Twitch. He started on Twitch. He does YouTube, and he does a lot of content videos. And he has a lot of sponsors and all that sort of stuff. He makes, now he's at the top rung, right? He makes between 45 and 65,000 a month.
Whoa!
Oh, is that all?
Wow!
So there's So you can see that there is a new world. It's a world that I haven't tapped into, that I'm tapping into now.
What does he do, Pepe? What does he stream? What's his thing? Is he a musician? Is he a cook?
He's just a guy that plays a little bit of guitar. He plays games, and he has tech information of how to stream on YouTube and how to stream on Twitch. So that's his thing, because he's really good at it, and he speaks well. And people like him. So they
right.
love the insight in what he does. So he's just been doing it for a long time, and people really get it. Now, there's no reason why any of us, any musician that's been, waiting for the phone to ring for years and years and years, can't just get started on something.
You're right.
And that's what I hope to inspire people to do. Let me ask you, music is our platform. We love it. We desire it. We are passionate about it. What is this is going to be a really broad question, but what is music to you, Greg?
An excuse to not do anything else. No, it's I don't know. It's been with me since I started learning piano when I was 6, and I've never considered doing anything else. But more than a work thing. It's an outlet. It's creative. I find that particularly these days, you don't really have like a good day and a bad day. You might just have like a bad hour or a couple of hours or something like that, and it's nothing that going and playing the piano for a while can't fix invariably. And it's something that's universal as well. Like since we luckily had started like songwriting with people in other countries, like over video chat before COVID, but now that's all we do. The other day I was on a songwriting chat with a guy in Hong Kong and a girl in LA, and I was in Edinburgh in a hotel room. And music's universal. It goes across borders and languages, and I don't know, it inspires like feelings that only that can create. So I don't know. That's what it is to me, I suppose.
Let me ask you: has the passion for music dwindled or intensified over the years?
It's never dwindled. I mean, sometimes, occasionally, you get bored with what you can do, but that doesn't last long. You just means you're not looking hard enough to listen to new music or different music or something that you haven't listened to. A thing I would do, used to do on the way to gigs was like, say on Apple Music, you can just find people's top songs, obviously, same on Spotify, but I would pick an artist that I was like, do you know, I really haven't, I should have got to know these guys, but I haven't. And I just stick their playlist on and I drive to the gig, and there's always something to take from it. And that reinvigorates your love for those same 12 notes, just played in a different way.
It's interesting that inspiration you get from music, and I think that's what I'm talking about is when it doesn't matter whether they're musicians or not that come to my shows, they're inspired, and that's what it's all about. It's such a beautiful medium to give people inspiration and love and joy and connection. Bryden,
Mate,
you are both of you are such incredible musicians, incredible singers. You have a harmonic knowledge that is beyond most people that I know, both of you, and you have this intensity in the way that you perform, both of you as well. I'm going to hit Bryden because what I'm saying to Bryden is I'm saying to you as well, Greg. You have this amazing connection when you play music. It becomes you and one. It's not like you're trying to do music. It's that you are music. What does it mean to you? That is that an important thing in your life? What is music to you?
yeah, absolutely. I think music to me, from a structured point of view, if people might understand, is you have your wife and son and music. That's my life, effectively. That's it. I couldn't do without either of those three. That's just music life for me. I think I just like the way it makes me feel when I'm doing music. And I think then once you learn to be free in that music, then you can express that to others and they get a kick out of it as well because they see how much you're loving it. I think as soon as it becomes something that is a chore or that you're there for the wrong purposes, then music ceases to have its impact. I think at the core of it all, music needs to be something that the person providing the music to the audience is absolutely and utterly involved in and loving, and just wouldn't want to be anywhere else. And as you say, as far as a gift is concerned, then that is very easily radiated to a crowd. It's simple as that, really. I think it's a fearlessness. I love music. I love the feeling of it. I love the feeling it gives me. I love listening to it. I love dissecting it. I love talking about it. I just love, two notes played together beautifully. I love teaching and talking to people about how effective music can be in its simplest form. I don't know. I just music is life for me. It's life.
It's interesting working with Pete Millwood on Thursday last week, and I said to him, because he doesn't do many gigs. He looks after his mum, after his dad and his brother who's autistic full time. That's his job. So I said to him, "But what are you singing all day?" And he said, "Oh, absolutely, man." And that's what he does all day, is sings. And you can tell his pitch is beautiful. Yeah. His intensity is beautiful. And it's like you can tell that that's all he loves to do. Is like he's got a life that he has to live, but his thing is singing all day.
It is singing.
It's incredible. Hey, look, we should wrap it up. We should have wrapped it up about half an hour ago, but we've been going for now an hour and 45 minutes. Tanti, can you hit us up with what's been going on online? Although we've seen a couple of things and there've been great comments. What's going on?
Look, we can see the comments. Everyone's loving hearing from you, Bryden and Greg. I mean, we miss you. You can see everyone wants you back. All I can really say is that, just building on the music, what is music? Music is essentially another language. It's a language. It's how you communicate to each other with it. It's, creating a community like, you have English, Spanish, you have a community there. With music, it's another community. So within it, there is there's a culture, there's a life, and its connection. So that's what I wanted to add to the what is music. What does music mean to me? And I love that. What are we? Week 22 and even 23 on ISO gigs. That it started off with Pete, sending me a message, ring me when you wake up 6 hours later. And then I say, okay, what have you got? What ideas do you have? And then he's come up with an idea, and it's developed into this. And it's just so beautiful in that we've connected with a lot of people here. We've had, numerous guests who are willing to give their time and give their insights, and also having everyone tuning in and watching us every week. So it's that exchange of that connection. So it's the giving and the receiving. So that's really what I wanted to add to this. And thanks to Pete for initiating it. But what's come out of it is something that we can build on, and it's going to take us into the new normal, whatever that may be. It's going to be a hybrid. It's going to be a mixture of this form of online plus in-person gigs, and that's the way it's going to be, I think.
That's the way it's going to be, little darling.
That's going to be.
You go riding on the horses, yeah.
Yeah.
And
tell me, Tanti, have there been some any comments?
What do you want to say? Okay, so we've addressed Paul Christie's been online. It's so good to see Paul here.
Yeah. I saw Paul's comment come up, and it filled up the whole screen.
That was his response to Jim Hanna. So he was giving his insight on that. So thanks for that, Paul. Paul's also said it's interesting to listen to Greg and Bryden's viewpoints on working overseas. And people wanting to come back. Oh, Chris Robertson, I reckon Stomping Keys could book Austin, Texas for weeks. There you go, Greg. at Pete's Dueling Piano Bar. Sorry.
There you go. Good old Chris. Chris is great.
Yes. But yeah, and what I was going to say, yeah, the ISO talks. People are really enjoying the ISO talks that we bring. Tony Bortolin playing live music is such a total escape from reality, while intimately entertaining the punters as well. So yeah, it's escape. It's escape from life, but it's also life as well. So there you go. Yeah.
Thank you, Tandy. Guys, is there anything you want to say to cap off tonight's little talk, or should I say this morning's little talk?
I liked when you said, and Bryden was touching on as well, like how to actually do something if you're not the extroverted Peter Northcote. Like how's everyone else supposed to do it? And so I think the kind of positive thought is, if this is the way life is now, what can you do, and why aren't you doing it? So like, if you can get together and play music with other people and you're a bass player, why don't you pick up the phone and call the rest of the band and live stream one of your rehearsals or something, or get on Twitch, or like you said, jump on and just do something constructive, because we need to keep doing something. And instead of the days of waiting for the phone to ring have ended. And I know that's more difficult for certain personality types, and whether that actually leads us towards certain instruments in the first place. But there has to be. I think everybody's approachable, and like Bryden said, it's perhaps the fear of rejection or something. The fact that like Bryden can say that, I feel like not many people stand a chance then, because it just shows how we as the musicians don't really see what we're fully worth, like the rest of people. Like anyone hearing Bryden say that is like, but listen to how you sing. It's like, but that doesn't change the way you feel about putting yourself out there. So I think the thought is, if everyone can just take a risk that they wouldn't take and just see how it pans out. And the worst that can happen is everyone will laugh at you. Do you know what I mean? Like,
that's right. That's beautiful words, Greg. Absolutely perfect. I'm doing a series of videos at the moment called The Balanced Musician, and it's not about being the best musician. It's about finding yourself, and again, about finding some authenticity in who you are, being happy with who you are. Because most of us go, oh, I'm not that good, or I don't want people to see me, or I'll stand and stare at my shoes. It's like, now we've got to get to the stage where it's okay, because not everyone's going to be your audience. What you've got to do is, nobody is ever going to be as good or as bad as you are as a musician. Nobody will ever be Greg Agar. So be who you are and risk it. Trevor Court, risk it for the biscuit. There you go. So I think that, and that series that I'm doing is all about that stuff. It's taking those universal principles of acceptance and love and just going with that stuff and being who you are and being fucking okay with it, It's like, it's all right. And you will always find your audience. And even if your audience is your mum and your dad, you're making them happy and you're giving them some joy. So I think that's really more important. Bryden, last words?
My good man. Thank you. My last words is thank you to you, Pete, for flying the flag for us.
It's good.
The other thing I would say is that, again, echoes Greg's point. It would be a real tragedy if people who were starting in this music industry and have studied their butts off, or have tried, or have worked, or have practiced to become a musician, have been affected by this pandemic so much that it creates a career change for them. That they, it's an interesting thing when I'm talking to a lot of people when I'm doing the show on The Voice, a lot of the coaches, And one of the big things that one of the coaches said to me once is, someone gets up and sings, and they say they get a chair turned for them, and the artist will say, "This is me, blah 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 blah. I'm a whatever. I'm a dental nurse, or I'm a janitor or something, whatever the case may be." And I remember the coach saying, "Oh, why are you that?" And they said, "Oh, because I wanted a second option just in case singing didn't work for me." To which the coach replied, "Singing will never work for you because you're not taking it seriously. If you want to be a singer, you don't have a second option. If you want to be a musician, you don't have a second option. If you want to have a career in the music industry, it must be your first and only option. Otherwise, you will be either someone else will take your place because they have the drive to want it to be their option." So this is a really difficult time we're in, and I think a lot of people will be going, "Shit, what is my second option here? Because I no longer have the vehicle for me being a musician. That live thing has gone." Where Pete is a perfect example of that. Music hasn't gone. It never will go. It's just adapted. And if you can adapt to the changing face of what we have at the moment, but continue to focus on the fact that I want to be a musician and nothing else, then invariably you will find a vehicle and a medium for it, whatever that happens to be.
I want to give you an idea of a situation that hit me a couple of months ago, well before COVID, of a girl that I judged in a singing competition, and she was awesome. I loved her, and I wanted her to win, and I think the band won. She was in a band, the band won. And she contacted me, said, "What'll I do?" And I said, "Let's meet up." And we met out at the cafe down there, and she said to me, she's only young, like 20, early 20s, and she said, "What'll I do?" And I said, "Well, what do you want to do?" And she said, "Well, look, I'm taking on an internship with a law company because that will give me, that's a 6-week course that I'll be at least able to kind of maybe get a job from later on." And I said to her, "You're going to waste fucking 6 weeks with something with no money when you could be spending 6 weeks on your own career? Why?"
Correct.
And I think that we've got to get out of this mindset of like,
to fall back on.
You either do it or you don't do it. And I think, like, as far as I'm
Correct.
concerned, I'm unemployable in any other industry. But I tell you what is really interesting is that now I'm employed in so many other industries because all I did was music. So I think that if you, and I think it's really wise that people do have another job. I think it's really wise. But if you're young and you're going, "Well, I better get a backup," it's proportionate to the belief that you will become who you want to be. It's absolutely proportionate.
And the thing is, Pepe, I'm not suggesting that a lot of musicians don't like work in a bar or have a second job or a second source of income, but they're not going and studying an entirely different career path in case music doesn't work. They're focusing on music and music alone, and to supplement my ability to focus on my music, I need to do X, Y, and Z, but the focus is still the music. It's not, I'm going to do Z if music doesn't work. I think that's a really important thing to take away from this. And as I said, I think it would be a real shame to lose a generation of young musicians because of this, because they've suddenly, the door's closed. I mean, a young musician is hard enough as it is. You're out there trying to be noticed, and then suddenly all the doors closed because of COVID. And, you know, you've got us old farts who've had 30 years in the industry, or you 40 in the industry. I've been doing it for 30. And it's like, well, we have things to fall back on. But for young kids, it's probably a completely different paradigm. So I feel desperately encouraging of those that have either any young kids that are listening now, or those that teach young kids, or those that have young children who want to be musicians, to encourage them to continue to pursue what it is that they love to do without a backup plan, such that the backup plan inhibits their ability to actually really pursue their passion. It's a fun.
Look, I think that we're really I love that, and I think that we're really healthy because after judging the ACMF song competition this year, and I do it every year, and I have done for decades, we're okay. It's not the musicians that are the problem. It's the A&R guys. We won't talk about that, but it's the A&R guys that have got the issue. But the other thing is that musicians are going beyond that. And if you have a look at Twitch and you have a look at what's going on there in some of the people, we're doing fine.
TikTok, Twitch,
TikTok.
Exactly. There are mediums to get yourself out there. As I said, the system has changed, but the focus shouldn't change. We are musicians.
That's right.
First and foremost.
Yeah.
It sounds
I just see Shane flew online. That's great to see Shane here because we had a chat yesterday about streaming, and he's taking it on. He did one show and he realised that this could be a good thing for himself to kind of get into, and so he's into it. Chris Cook, the industry is there for the taking. Go out and grab it. Paul Travakis, go hard or go home. I love my day job while playing music. Teaching is a passion running parallel with music. That's right. See, we all have my day job has been doing session work, and I did 2 today. How's that? How fucking amazing is that?
Yeah, that's great.
Anyway, look, guys, this has been a great conversation. We've gone for nearly 2 hours, actually 2 hours minus 2 minutes. This has been a long conversation. It's been absolutely great. Let me see if this is going to work, and then we'll come back. This will be a minute.
Okay. I'm just a poor boy, nobody loves me. He's just a poor boy from a poor family, spared him his life from his monstrosity. Easy go, will you let me go? Bismillah, no, we will not let you go. Let him go, Bismillah, we'll not let you go. Let him go, Bismillah, we'll not let you go. Let me go, we'll not let you go. Let me go, we'll not let you go. Let me go. Mamma mia, mamma mia, mamma mia.
Okay, so it was a little bit out of sync, but I did that in the midst of trying to see. This is where I'm at now. I'm a TV producer. Well, let me say to you, thank you so much for being a part of this tonight. It's been great. Go and enjoy your day now, and let me mention that Bryden Stace is he has his page that he does nothing to. Greg Agar is always doing stuff. And Greg Agar is Greg Agar's a little bit better.
Greg Agar is exponentially better. Bryden Stace has a page that someone else might look at occasionally.
Bryden, if you were here, I'd be making you work, and I'd making you be coming here and doing the ISO gigs. Now, that leads me on to the situation that on Monday night we have my 60th birthday celebration, which I haven't been able to do because of COVID. And this was going to be the big one, as we used to do every year at the basement at Club York, wherever it could be. And I've been doing it for decades. And Bryden will be closing the show with that song because he always used to. I'm working on something with Greg, and we're going to have 16. How many singers, Tandy? 13 singers.
13 singers, and Victor, and you, and Fab, and Dario, and I'll be there.
So we'll be all streaming live here at Studio Pete, and we hope that you'll be tuned in. That's on Monday night. That's my birthday. This Thursday we have the amazing Barry Leaf. We'll be back next Tuesday with ISO Talks. We don't know who we're going to get, but I don't think it's going to be better than this.
No one's better than this, mate. Crikey.
No. And thank you so much.
So, guys, thank you so much for being here. I really, really appreciate you being wonderful tonight. Would you stay online while I close up?
Yeah,
of course.
And I'll come back and talk to you.
Thanks so much.
Everybody, thank you so much for being here tonight. It's been great. There's been some amazing comments and some beautiful people. All our friends have been here. Jim Hanna, Paul Travakis, Mark Dippy, Trevor Court, Loretta Dehan is always here. Cliff Gorson's been here. It's Greg. And we've got a new guy, Greg 8699 from Twitch. And he's the first time listener, and it's really good from Twitch. So thank you, Greg. It's great to see you here. Don't forget on Thursday nights. Thank you, Tanty.
Thank you, Peppy. Great to see you.
All right. See you again, guys. Stick
Thanks,
around.
Pepper.
Don't close up yet, but I'll close up here.
Bye, mate.
See you, everybody. Thank you so much.
Yeah.